This is Sean Leopardi here with Boss Juice Podcast, and I'm with a special guest, Brian Teyssier, like Messier. Everybody knows the hockey background. We're going to learn more about his background. Antonino Ferraro is usually always with us here for the Boss Juice Podcast.
He's letting us down.
That young man, I'll tell you what, he's letting us down, but he is juggling a lot. And he said, "Can you do this solo?" And I said, "Absolutely. We're going to make this great."
I just wasn't in the juggling cards, apparently. That's all right. What we'll do, sir, is in a couple more years, we'll come back and we'll have him make sure he cuts time out of his schedule for me.
Exactly. Antonino, you should be embarrassed. No.
That's a shame, a crying shame.
He's a good guy, and he always injects a lot of good rhythm to everything that we're doing here. So this was cool. We got a great backdrop right over the city of Pittsburgh. It's really cool. It must be nice living here, waking up every day and looking out to this.
So I mean, the way I got here was I showed a condo to a buyer years ago, right? Whenever I was just coming up and I couldn't afford anything even near this. And I thought to myself, one day I'm going to live there. You've heard the story a million times about successful people. And eventually one day came, and it's got to be 8 years now. And
Wow.
I had an opportunity to buy in this building. Absolutely love it. I mean, I tell everybody, we have the best views of the city of Pittsburgh. So if you have people that live in Pittsburgh, they're like, "Oh, I have great views." I'm like, "You are the view, right? You are our view." The fireworks, they explode right at our deck height.
Seriously, I can't imagine living here. I mean, I worked downtown for 9 years directly, but have been part of the in and out of the city my whole life, but have never had an opportunity to live in a place like this with such a spectacular view.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
It's hard to be sad. It's hard to be upset.
Yeah.
Whenever you have this kind of view every day, even on a cloudy day like today.
Yeah.
It's even better, actually.
Well, I think too, with, in the Pittsburgh area, we have the 4 seasons, seasonal change. That must look really cool from up here too.
We don't get snow that much anymore, but whenever we did get snow, it's really cool. I posted on my Instagram a couple of days ago. I have videos of double rainbows. I could see the rain coming in over where Shaler is.
Right.
Memorial Day, they fly the jets over. Opening night for the Steelers game is just usually a Monday or Sunday night. They fly the jets over, so I know to time it just right by watching TV.
That's cool.
It's the best. If you ever come by in this building or on Mount Washington with views, highly recommend it. Contact me.
Are you into video or photography or anything?
I'm into like video for social media, but I'm not into like having cameras and post-production or anything like that. So yes, no type of thing.
That's cool. You got spectacular view.
Stunning.
So Brian is a realtor. Tell me how and why you got into this profession, this career, and did you do anything else prior to that maybe led to this? How'd this go?
Dude, you hit the nail on the head. So in all my school years, education-wise, I was dumb. C minus, book dumb, right? I mean, there's street smarts, there's book smarts. Very rarely do you find a person that has both, and that I've discovered. So I'm not very book smart, but I'm very driven and passionate. And I'm telling you, in this field that I'm in, a lot of the successful people are very similar to me, where they have an unquenchable amount of passion to be successful. So they were never book smart. They find a way around it. So I was never book smart, didn't go to college, ended up selling drugs. I was a drug dealer for a while, got caught, got 2 felonies on my records, had to pivot, couldn't figure out what to do. So I ended up starting to flip homes. This is like 20 years ago. Yeah. So when people hear this now, they're going to think flip homes, they're going to think YouTube, TV channels, shows, and all this. And that none of that happened. There was maybe like 2 or 3 people that were flipping in Pittsburgh under the radar. There were no TV shows. There was no, YouTube was in its infancy in 2007. So you had to actually, and none of my family did it. My mother was a server. Back in the day, they called it a waitress. Nowadays, correct terms, we call it a server. My dad was a car salesman and a manager at a car dealership. So we never had hands-on at all. But, and I'm reading a bunch of different like Dale Carnegie books, and we're learning that when you're forced to do something, your back's against the wall, you will usually have success. So 2 felonies on my record. I wasn't going to be a cook or a washer or dishwasher for anybody. So I found out that you could buy homes that are in disrepair, fix them up without a license. Nowadays, I think you need a contractor license. Back then, it was a wild, wild west, right? And then sell them for a profit, usually a decent profit. So I did one or two, decided I should probably get my real estate license to maximize my margins, right? And then I'd have access to the MLS and find all the properties. So I got my license, started selling more and more, flipped a couple homes, and then eventually like Zillow became a thing, video became a thing, so Facebook was created. So I started putting all this real estate sales stuff out on these platforms, which was never heard of because, again, imagine Facebook from day one. I mean, people saw me posting photos on Facebook with me and another at a closing, and these agents thought I was stupid. Like they thought that was the dumbest thing possible. So anytime, and again, this is on these Dale Carnegie books, the more people tell me you can't do it, that's when I realized there's like a gold ore vein waiting for you to tap into, right? You've just got to implement. So I ended up starting selling more and more real estate, and I got away from flipping houses. But I have such an intimate knowledge on construction, flipping houses, that helps me with my clients today, right? Because they're interested in flipping.
Super cool backdrop to, how you got partially to where you are. Yeah. And I think starting back on that personal thing, you mentioned the drugs and the, getting caught in the felony and all this other kind of stuff. I don't judge anybody for anything. The thing is, everybody has lived a little. And that's the term. Anybody who knows me knows that's the term I use. Those are people who lived a little. And those are the most real people, because I think, and I'm included in that, I think like you've reached a point in your life and you've experienced a lot of things. You mentioned like street smarts. Well, that's part of that whole education. Even if you went to college, you can't learn that in a book. You've got to learn this on the outside real world. And I think that's a lot of things. Like I try to, like I speak in front of groups of college students, and they're trying to find their way and do some different things. And some really have it together, and others they're still trying to figure everything out. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to have a blast. You're going to do all of these things. But those are the foundational things that shape you as you go. So you mentioned one other thing too, another word. You said the implementation side. And I'm always big on, X's and O's, the blocking and tackling, putting together strategy. People can come up with the greatest creative plans and things like that. But man, if you can't implement, it's all for naught. Tell me a little bit about the implementation side so we can help some people.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's human nature or realtor nature, but every time we go to conferences, the whole idea is to get out there and gather information from what other people are doing and rub elbows and take it back and implement it. So every time I've been going to different conventions for RE/MAX and other real estate things out of state for a long time. And that is always the biggest thing. And I had a real estate coach, and they said, we asked the instructors, why are you giving us all the information? And they said, you know what? I know you're not going to use it. And that struck me. It was a local Pittsburgh one. And I think 15 years ago, they had the top agents on a panel, and somebody asked, and I was thinking it too. And I was like, I wonder why they're doing that. And somebody asked, and they said, I know you're not going to do it. And ever since then, like when you're probably like me, when someone tells you can't do it or pokes you and says no, you're like, oh, yeah, put that chip right on my shoulder and I'm going for it. So when I heard that, I thought to myself, I'm going to implement as much as possible, right? And I thought to myself, instead of going to these different events, being coached and them giving me 50 things, I'm just going to ignore 47 of them. I'm going to take my top 3 and I'm going to implement the shit out of them. And honestly, that has helped me. I'm not the best, the number one agent in the area, but it's helped me rise above in a relatively quick fashion. Whenever I kind of got to the top, was implementing, doing the things that people say you're not going to do because they don't do them.
That's so cool. I think about, when you talk about being positioned here in Pittsburgh, your client base, do you serve mostly Pittsburgh-based clients, or do you stretch outside of the area?
So we have a MLS, multiple listing service, which covers a geographic area. I cover the entire MLS. Again, the reason why I do that is because when I was growing up in this real estate field in 2006, 2007, those older agents, the established agents says, we don't go across that bridge. We don't go out of that zip code. And I thought to myself, why not? Like the money's green here. Money's green over there. Money's green over there. So I cover the whole entire MLS. I had what was called a farm. It's an area where I concentrate spending money in. Indian Lake, which is past a Flight 93 Memorial.
Oh, wow.
Doylestown. I mean, it's places you probably never heard of. It's 2 hour and 41 minutes past Seven Springs, one way. So I would drive all the way out there and show houses and have open houses and dominate that lake area until COVID came. COVID came and everybody came and bought up all the land, and there was like everybody's holding it now. So I go anywhere, and I don't know if you know, but I'm not just in Pittsburgh. I'm in Florida. I'm licensed in Florida, so I go down there in the winter.
That's cool. I think Dylan sent me a little note, and he said, "Hey, he goes, he's conducting some business in Florida." Yep. I worked with one of my cousins. His name is Jay Leopardi. He was out of Fort Lauderdale area, and we conducted business. And I could not for the life of me remember the realtor. It was George something rather, but they just mostly dealt with like high-end luxury condos. I mean, gorgeous places that NFL players, hockey players, people like that in the Miami area, you know, those are the places they wanted to live.
Yeah, Davie, Florida is kind of between Lauderdale and Miami. I live in Miami in the winter.
Cool.
But I have clients in Orlando. For instance, I have a doctor that I met in Pittsburgh, right? They came to school years ago to study at University of Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. So I put him in a little $80,000 house in Homestead 10, 15 years ago. Right. Went to school, sold their house for $130,000. They moved to New York City to do their fellowship. Got done with that and contacted me and said, do you know anybody that sells houses in Florida? I'm like, how big? She goes, well, you know, our budget's like 800 to 1.2 million. I was like,
yeah.
So we just got them contingent and went through the inspection process in Orlando, which is about 3.5 hours north of Miami. Yeah. So I would fly down, meet them down there, show them houses, fly back. They got a house under contract, flew back down on Spirit for like $26, had the home inspection, flew back to Pittsburgh, and I service everywhere. I'm only licensed in Florida and Pennsylvania. Okay. But I have a listing on a lake in Ohio that I'm splitting with another RE/MAX agent over there, and I just closed another set of doctors in West Virginia down by Marshall University, a nice $1 million house that we listed and sold. We co-marketed it together because I'm not licensed in those areas. So since they're high net worth individuals and I want to give white glove treatment, I make sure I just don't hand them off and catch a little referral fee. Mm-hmm. I stay involved heavily. We use a lot of my marketing and I make sure that they see it to the end.
Let's talk about that for a minute because we talked before we turned the cameras on. I'm a marketing branding guy and man, I really love what I do. Honestly love what I do. And it's always interesting to learn how other people, how they promote themselves or their business. What do you do? How do you promote yourself? The other thing is, how do people reach you? How do they find you? How do they know about you?
So I'm very heavily involved in social media. I was a very early adopter on Facebook and Instagram. If you just Google Brian Sells Pittsburgh, I come up everywhere. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm relatively active. It's peaks and valleys. There's times that I'm heavy into it, right? I'm posting videos once a week, blah, blah. And then there's times where I just like kind of check out for a little bit. Zillow reviews was a big deal and kind of still is a big deal. It's just real estate specific because there's Google reviews as well, but that's not just real estate specific. Zillow is just real estate reviews only, and they're verified. So I can't just have you write a review for me and make up 123 Anywhere Street. Right. I represent as a buyer. They actually check that. They vet that and make sure that's okay. So Zillow reviews is where I got a lot of business. So then I started putting a lot of time and effort into getting Zillow reviews as well. Yeah,
I think Zillow kind of changed that game for good and bad. I think with some of the boutique style agencies in, say, Western Pennsylvania, that's helped and kind of hurt a little bit. But if you're looking for information, I think those are one of the sources that you get out there. And then from a realtor standpoint, in order to get your name, your picture, your listings in front of people, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Zillow is the number one searched real estate website by traffic. I mean, not a brokerage like RE/MAX.com or HowardHanna.com because they tend to aggregate their listings to the top, right? But Zillow's, they're a third party. They're neutral. They don't care whose listing it is. Right. Zillow has pushed the real estate market forward so fast. People don't even realize it. Like nowadays, like kids like Dylan, Zillow has always been around. I have people that'll go on Zillow, and this is why Zillow has pushed the real estate market. They've given them all the information. people buy houses and sell their house, had no intention, no reason to buy or sell a house. Like they didn't just have a kid, their family's not growing, they didn't get a new job.
Right.
The wife or the husband has been they just casually look on Zillow, they find something they love, and that gets the wheels turning. Contact a realtor. How much is my house worth? They already know because of this estimate range,
right.
Which people are going to hate me saying this, but this estimate range is accurate AF. I mean, at first when it came out, they ran off of algorithms. There wasn't enough data. It sucked, right? But it's been out since 2006, almost the same year I got into real estate. So they put in thousands of deals in their system with closed sales, square footage, bedrooms. So their algorithms are amazing.
So tons of data to help support all that. The one thing I do like about Zillow, this isn't a Zillow ad, but I think it's the functionality, the user friendliness, to be able to search and find things. I'm looking at it on the consumer end, not really from a realtor's eyes. I do have a client in Beaver, Pennsylvania. It's boutique style. They've been around 120 years. In fact, we're celebrating our 120th anniversary this year. It's Bovard Anderson.
I know. I've done deals with them.
Ed McLaughlin is the owner, and great guy. In fact, we just closed. I wasn't looking for a house. There was a situation that popped up, and I knew that I couldn't be in this small house much longer that we were renting. And this house popped up that checked 99% of the boxes. We put in an offer. Ed worked his tail off. Next day it was accepted, and within 30 days had everything closed and done. And I've been in that house now for a few weeks, which was really cool. But it's a testament to everything that you're saying. Information was out there, able to find it, dealing with a good realtor that can pull the package together, and like a mortgage lending company. One of the guys in my networking group, his name's Mark Holp, works for Mortgage Lending Solutions in Beaver County. Within like 2 hours, had me qualified or pre-approved, and it was a dollar amount that I told Mark, I'm like, I'm not spending that much.
Right.
No matter what I'm approved for, I know where I want to be.
Right.
But it was kind of a cool process, and it was fun for me learning from the consumer side and watching Ed and his team do their thing. And I think it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people don't get to see the behind the scenes work that you put into things. Talk about some of that. I
mean, so when you go on listing appointments, we always talk about, we have drone photos and night shots. We talk about all these hard things, right? I mean, hard material things that I can talk about. And then I'll go about my day and I'll negotiate. There have been times, and just recently, I had a buyer that we wanted to negotiate a seller down on price, right? We negotiated them down a little bit, and the seller, my buyers said, go ahead and accept the deal. But I thought, man, I feel like I can get them down more. And I have that feeling because I've been in business 16 years, selling thousands of homes, and that is like the real estate street smarts that we were talking about that enters your system, right? It's like the algorithm for Zillow. I'm building that gut feeling every day. Somebody that just gets their license yesterday or a year ago doesn't have that gut feeling. But I thought to myself, I could probably do better for them. And that's going to be a very happy buyer that's going to write a very nice review for me. That's going to get me 3 more other happy buyers. So I went, even if they told me, and I think this is slightly illegal, but we're going to leave it in there anyway. Because when they say accept the offer, I should probably go back and just accept the offer. But since I had this gut feeling that I could get more, I strung the listing agent along, and I said, we're thinking about moving on. And I pulled my buyer's second favorite property, pulled up the address on Zillow, and I sent the listing agent the link, and I said, we're thinking about moving on to this one. It just feels like it's better since you won't come down to X, whatever I was trying to get. She's like, let me get back to you. She came back later and got us $500 towards, we wanted a fenced in. And they weren't going to give us a fence. I know they weren't, it was too much money.
Right.
But she said, you know what, they'll give you $500 more. So this is after my buyers are already okay with the deal. So then I got to go back and say, hey, I worked a little harder and I got you $500 more, and they were ecstatic. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's being manipulative or anything like that. I think you saw different opportunities and you did what you needed to do. And at the end, it wasn't like $50,000.
Right.
It was just a little bump that kind of helped your client. And it probably speaks volumes to the extra step that you go to help people.
Oh yeah. They love it. And what I'll do is I'll screenshot the conversation so they could see after I know we won, we got it. So they could see how hard I was working. Cause I want to make them raving fans. And listen, I've been coached for years, and that is the big ticket, right? We want to make anybody in sales. We want to make you raving fans so you'll tell 3 more people, so you'll write a review, and of course you'll be happy. If you're not happy, you'll never be a raving fan or a cheerleader. So like in social media, we call it cheerleading. So I want somebody to post their house. We just closed on this house. Brian Teyssier helped us get it, etc. I think cool. I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No. That's what this is all about.
Right. Okay.
This is just basic conversational stuff, and I love everything that you're telling me. In fact, as I listen to you, it just seems like we are wired very similarly. Like I want to work really, really hard for my clients. I take it as if, as I'm putting together like a marketing strategy, I look at it as if this was my business, what would I be doing? You know, I don't want to waste anybody's time or money, resources, anything like that. I just want to get right to it. And then you mentioned that gut, that vibe that you get. And that's just based on experience and these layers of things that we've learned over the years. It's this knowledge base that we create. And I think it's the same thing. I look at things through a different set of eyeballs than other people. And it sounds like you're wired the same way. Sometimes things just feel right. And sometimes times it just feels a little bit awkward.
Street smarts.
Now we know how to navigate through all of those. It's kind of a cool
combination of street smarts and confidence. When I first started out, I was scared to show a house because I had no confidence because I didn't know what I was doing. That's the brain, right? Think about a boxer or a UFC fighter. The best fighter in the world could be fighting somebody that's less skilled, but they may get hit in the face once and they start losing confidence and they can lose the fight. So it's confidence that goes with experience, which earns people's trust. Yeah. And these buyers I was talking about would say to me, multiple times, they would say, we trust your expertise. You're the expert here. What do you think we should do? And that's because, we have the experience of years of doing this.
Well, I think it's probably in your case, it's the package. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself. Right. Then they see you on these multiple outlets, see the results on how you can, how you can help them. Let me ask you this, Brian, about the market. So I told you we bought this house and everything closed really quickly. The seller accepted the offer, even though we were the lower offer. There were 2. Let me back up a minute.
Yep.
The house became available to tour on a Friday, so I wanted to tour it like right away. Found out about this house on a Wednesday. Friday, have it set up. Naturally, we pull in a driveway the same time another realtor and another family does. It was just one of those deals, right? Yeah. Super convenient, but we let them as a courtesy just go in, check everything out. We did the outside and then we flip-flopped, talked about it, said, hey man, we're going to, let's put in an offer. Let's make this thing work. But this market is so weird. Inventory low, prices can be up and down a little bit. People aren't so afraid of the mortgage rates that they're not buying houses because they know at some point they can revisit all that. Based on the market that you see, where do you see things headed?
Oh, it's funny you say that because I just got a couple pieces of information today. One was on the local news or the national news. I'm not quite sure. No, local news because they said the home values are the highest they've been in Pittsburgh. Maybe it was the national news. Shit. Let me start over. I just saw something on TV this morning where they were saying home values are the highest they've been in years. And I believe that. So what I'm seeing in the market is that those COVID times, we call them the unicorn years. It ruined everybody, man. Every night we go to bed and every morning we get up and we get further away from that. It makes realtors very happy because people can start forgetting about that. It's crippled people. Yeah. People won't pull the trigger because they think that we're going to go back to 2% interest rates. Listen, the government already has admitted that they know they made a mistake by dropping the rates that low. And if we ever had this happen again, they would not drop the rates this low because it created too much of a buzz. So we have we gained during the unicorn years a sect of buyers and sellers that did not want or need to sell their home, but only did because the interest rates were so low and they knew this would never happen again. That was in the unicorn years.
Do you think lifestyle changed that too? Because a lot of people that work downtown now had an opportunity to work from home. Now we need more space. We need more office space in a home environment.
Change it exponentially. The interest rate coupled with the fact that you take this inner city, Pittsburgh proper, everybody moved out one ring out to the semi-suburbs, right? Like Baldwin. And then people in Baldwin and that moved out a further ring, Bethel Park, People in Bethel Park moved out to Claysville. I mean, everybody moved out a ring.
Yeah.
And then after, because they all wanted their own space, they wanted their own compound. And earlier in the podcast, I talked about Indian Lake. We couldn't sell properties on that lake. Couldn't give them away. It was built in the 60s. No lie. Some of the carpets were from the 60s still. Couldn't sell them. They weren't worth shit.
Yeah.
Like a light switch. There may have been 30 properties are for sale. Like a light switch. Not only did they start selling, they were selling over ask, and then boom, within, I'd say, a couple weeks, couple months, there was not one property that I could not sell available for sale.
That's amazing. So
lifestyle.
everything came up, and that was it.
Yeah, golf course communities were dead. They were dying. Like, that was a big deal back in the 90s and all that. Oh, I live in a golf course. People quit golfing, right?
Yeah.
Pandemic came. People wanted to be outside and still doing things. Golf course communities picked back up in value.
That's really cool.
Crazy.
You've probably, so you said, what, 16, 17 years you've been in this. This is really, really interesting because you've gotten to see then a few different types of markets too. The house, for another house I bought, 2007, that was the beginning of another flop with the real estate market.
Crisis.
I put a sign in the yard on trick or treat night, had 2 people call. They want to see this place. It was shown twice, and we accepted one of the offers at the time and sold the house in, rapid fire.
Nice.
And that was right on the front end of when everything else hit the fan. So, I mean, we really lucked out in that regard. But it's interesting to see how it's cyclical, how things come and go, and all the different pieces of impact. But that's cool. So back on your ways that you promote, you were talking about social media and some of the tools that you use. I think they have to work in tandem. What do you feel is your best tool?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have my largest sale. I may have had 2 that were tied in Pittsburgh, $2.3 million. One was from LinkedIn. They found me on LinkedIn, which is a underutilized tool in real estate because think about it, it's all professionals.
It's so funny you say that.
I don't have my parents in their 70s, God bless them, on LinkedIn posting about the local bridge in Cecil being out, right? Oh, there's deer that was hit. No. Facebook, dirty. That shit's all over there.
Yep.
And then I had a past client that has progressed further in life, more doctors, and now they also just built a brand new $2+ million home. So, but they follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn. So it's not always about finding. It's about staying in front of, like a billboard stays in front of people, ads and magazines stay in front of people. Digitally, I stay in front of all my clients with social media. And I don't just do one because my largest sale came from LinkedIn. They don't follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I don't even think they're on there. Then I have people on Instagram that aren't on Facebook. My most recent client I keep referring to because they're my most recent one, the buyers I negotiated for, they found me because of my YouTube videos. I know they didn't find me because of Instagram, because on my checklist, once I get them as a client, I go and find them on all the social media platforms, and I can see they weren't following me. So they found me because of the YouTube informational how-to videos, and I posted, like for 2 years straight, I did all these great videos about South Side and all these different places in Pittsburgh, and there's YouTube is evergreen, they call it, so it lasts a lot longer. Instagram is very, you're up and then you're done forever. So social media, and I use all of it in tandem. I post the same info across all platforms.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned LinkedIn, for example, because some of my clients that are more professional services driven, I feel like, when LinkedIn started, that was a cool way to stay in touch with people and find jobs and things, if that's what your deal was, if that's what you wanted. And it was a nice way to stay connected to people that you once worked with or whatever. Then all of a sudden, their algorithms changed, the sources changed, and it became more of a tool to position you as an influencer, as a person that has some particular talent or skill, or it's not about, hey, what am I going to have for lunch today or something like that. LinkedIn's a completely different vibe, but from that angle, it can be a great tool. And I also use that for some of my clients in the right context, but in tandem, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it could be TikTok and other pieces. It just depends. It's the right mix. It sounds like you've found a really solid mix based on the tools we have available now.
I think you're a fool if you're not utilizing all of those. And it's not like I love them. I don't even go on social media that much. I hired a virtual assistant that actually, and she's in the Philippines. She logs into my accounts and acts as me and will like and comment on a whole bunch of stuff. She does an hour. She does 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1 hour on each platform.
So let's talk a little bit about being a realtor. I know a few people that are hardcore, 100%. This is what I do every day of the week. Love it. Then there are other people that have made this kind of like a side hustle,
right,
where they can do some things.
Yep.
Tell me what your thoughts on the variety of people out there serving this industry.
Yeah. So I don't like the side hustle because I'm a career realtor. I invest a lot of money in myself. Like I said, I travel to educate myself. I hire coaches. So it's a little bit, I see both sides of it. It's a slap in the face and an insult to me to have people just do this part-time. However, the people that are doing it part-time are sometimes people that aren't really happy with their job, or school teachers have a lot of time off, or single parents. Maybe it's mother, maybe it's father. So they're bettering their family. So on one end, as a realtor, I can't stand it because I think it devalues the value of the career of being a realtor. We're one step above used car salesmen in many surveys over the years as far as how people look at us. And I think that's part of the problem. But then again, I do respect the fact that people are trying to better themselves. Some people aren't quite ready to get out of their current career. So they have one leg here and one leg there. And if you remember what I said earlier in the podcast, you do better whenever you're thrown into the fire, right? That's a better chance of success because then you go out and research more. You have to figure it out. But when you have a support system, a job that you're comfortable with, you're not going to really excel that well. And I've worked opposite ends of other realtors that were part-time, and noticeable difference. Yeah. Noticeable difference. I mean, they say 80% of the people do 20% of the business, obviously vice versa, 20. So I know the 20% and I know the 80%. Like I work with realtors that are in business often, do a lot of work, and they see my name, I see their name, I know it's going to be a good transaction.
What, over the course of that, 16, 17 year career, what was the biggest project that you had worked on?
It's probably going on currently. So I am co-listing the ARA project. So it's luxury townhouses in 3 different phases down in Lawrenceville. They start off at $995,000. Brand new construction out of the ground. So me and another agent, also with Remax at a different office, are responsible for trying to get these things pre-sold. Have to have so many pre-sold or reserved before the bank gives the developer the money. So trying to sell dirt to people for $1 million in Lawrenceville, it's a daunting task.
You got to market your ass off for that.
It's a tough job, man.
The reason I say that, so one of my clients with a former business partner who passed away, great guy. I always bring him up. His name is Jim Valenti, and he was just a wonderful guy to work with. Anyhow, one of his clients was a cemetery in Washington County, big one. And it was the same thing. Well, part of our goal was to train their family service counselors even more so in selling mausoleum space. Same deal, Brian. You had to sell, air and dirt. And a lot of conceptual drawings and ideas and really get creative with placement and things like that. Where are you going to put these? Because that's a big ask for somebody to come in and put $150,000 down to pick up some mausoleum space.
That's huge. In the time of mourning.
But you had to do this. Well, that was mostly on the pre-need side.
Oh, gotcha.
This way, pre-need, this way before construction starts, there had to be X amount of dollars in the bank before they could start rolling. And it sounds like the same thing with these high-end luxury places over in, where'd you say, Lawrenceville?
They're in Lawrenceville. Yeah,
That's
central
cool.
Lawrenceville.
That's such an up-and-coming, I know it has been for years. Even my tattoo guy, he migrated over there to Three Rivers Tattoo.
Yeah.
And it's really
Butler
neat.
Street?
I'm sorry?
Is the place on Butler Street?
I don't know the street. It's above a market. There's a really cool brick market. It's on a corner, beautiful space, really cool, vintagey. As you can imagine, it has the right kind of vibe inside. But Lawrenceville has come a long way, and they're doing a lot of really cool things. And I think other areas, other communities start to model after. And I think it's great. You know,
I
it makes
think-
it better.
I think they're Lawrenceville, something called the Lawrenceville Hall, I think it is, which is basically a gutted out building that they have. It's kind of like whenever you used to go to the Village and they had the food court. It's basically a food court, but they call it these different names now. It's like the Lawrenceville Hall. Federal Galley, I think, started it.
We've talked about that
Right.
place a lot.
I don't think Federal Galley is around in one of these areas. It was down in the
They're right
strip.
over here on the other side.
And it's in
Nova,
North.
Allo 26.
Yeah.
Right over here.
Yeah.
Really cool setup.
Yep.
And it's talk about convenience and just a neat way to sample things, conduct business. And when I say sample, I don't mean sampling the food. I mean taking a look at how other businesses are constructed and how they service people, you know, just by scanning that barcode and the food comes right back to your table. It's pretty cool stuff.
Super cool, yeah. So Lawrenceville's kind of started this Lawrenceville Hall. I mean, not Lawrenceville. Some business owners decided to do it to kind of bring people, I guess, away from the Strip District, which has grown exponentially, up and coming, I guess you can call it again, right? So they have a lot of good stuff going on in Lawrenceville.
In fact, Antonino is that direction over in the Strip. He's got a nice place over there. Had to bring him up again.
I was going to say, I feel like you're plugging this guy. He bailed on us and you're plugging him.
No, I think that's cool. So we talked about, you know, a really big project you're on right now. It's probably
Millions
a
of
crap load of
dollars.
work and, you know, just I'm sure it requires a lot of time, things like that. We might as well, you know, share your biggest disaster too.
I don't know if I've quite yet had my biggest disaster. There's been times where down in Lawrenceville, last year, as a matter of fact, I had 3 brand new luxury row houses that I was contracted to list, right? So I listed them when they were, again, just shells. I was trying to get people in there. I was doing open houses every weekend for 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. And I'm talking like there was just no drywall and it was 90 degrees, no air conditioning. And I'm down there trying to get people in, right? So we got an offer on the most expensive one for $999,000 and my sellers rejected it. We weren't even on the market yet. It wasn't even done yet. My sellers rejected it. Well, we weren't getting any traction on any of these, so we decided to pull them all off the market. Then whenever they were done, painted, staged, we were going to relist them. So there's one for $750, one for $850, and one for $950, right? That after it was expired, right? I was no longer the listing agent, but I thought I was going to be the listing agent again. That was the plan. Those buyers and those buyer's agent came in, spoke to my seller. My seller decided to list it with someone else, and they sold that one. $900,000 property that I did the work for, they didn't get paid. And I just recently made a post on all my social media. Those buyers I told you I got under contract from Pittsburgh that were doctors for $950,000. We put it together, put a deal together, and we found that there was a sinkhole problem. So we had to terminate down in Orlando because they couldn't get insurance. The buyers could not get insurance. They called everywhere. Even the insurer that's insuring it now said we will not write a new policy. So we had to terminate that. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because realtors always post under contract, through inspections, contingent. We're going to close in 10 days. Then there's another post next day. We're going to close in 9 days. There's another post. We're going to close in 8 days. Nobody ever posted the real stuff, right? The bad stuff. So I posted that it fell apart. I made my virtual assistant had my photo on there, the big $1 million house. And I forget what I wrote. Deal terminated. And so many people thank me for doing this, especially realtors, because nobody ever, I don't know why, I guess you don't want to let people think that you failed or the perception is that the realtor failed when it had nothing to do with me or the other realtor. It just fell apart. So I like showing, I'm going to start doing this more often, that things are starting to fall apart, right? And that's the transaction. There was that 951. They sold it to someone, another buyer's agent came in. And so they got another listing agent on the back of my hard work. All those days I was down there for months. It was whenever it was cold because it was in the spring, and when we finally expired, it was in the summer because it was hot as hell. So probably at least 4 months I was going down there. You don't get paid as a realtor, hourly, salary, nothing. You don't get paid when you sell it. Basically donated all my time to that developer, and then they sold all the other ones because of that one where my marketing brought the buyer in. So I don't know what kind of disaster you're looking for, but to me, I'm not going to add up the money I didn't make, but it was a lot.
Well, that disaster probably turned into a good lesson for a lot of other people, for one thing. And I think the other thing is, too, we chalk that stuff up as experience. It's one of those deals where I've been in the same position where just things didn't work out. as planned. And, you know, a lot of times there was one client over the years that I kind of fired and then brought them back on and then fired them again.
I get it.
It was just one of those things where you get in and you know, just weird things happen sometimes when you're in business. The cool thing is you're not reporting to anybody.
No.
You're making your own decisions. And this entrepreneurial wiring that we have, you mentioned earlier about, you know, tell me I can't do it. Tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to work 10 times harder to get whatever it is done.
Right.
That's how we are wired. And I think that's that goes clear back to the book smarts versus street smarts. There's things that you just obtain over years that really help you out as you go. So as far as your projects go, you got a big one in Lawrenceville that's underway, right?
Yeah.
What do you see happening else maybe in this area? And let's talk for a minute about what you have going on in Florida, if there are other things happening there that, you know, maybe it'd be good for people to hear and how you conduct business in other places.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different down in Florida, specifically Miami. I just so happen to land in Orlando because I have a pre-existing relationship with these guys. But Miami's definitely different. I mean, up here it matters, like your Zillow reviews, your Google reviews, how good you are. Down in Miami, it's not like that. Mm-hmm. It depends what you look like, who you know. Mm-hmm. I'll just say there's a lot of model wannabes that just happen to be realtors. They get a lot of business that I can tell you're just not qualified to perform those tasks. So it's definitely different down there. I started getting my license pre-COVID, and then switched brokers a couple different times. Couldn't quite make it work. And being there part-time is definitely a problem.
Right.
So for people that are wondering, how's it going? You know, I haven't really had any success. I've had a couple leases I've gotten, stuff like that. But when you're not there all the time, people typically don't want to trust you with selling their home or buying.
So my experience working down in Miami, it was kind of funny because when people would find out that you were from the Pittsburgh area, there was almost like this automatic sense of trust / they knew you were going to be reliable. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, man, people that come here from Pittsburgh and conduct business, because we've always had good relationships with them. When they say they're going to do something, they do it, they get it done. And it's weird because you mentioned, you know, the model-esque, beautiful people. They're gorgeous people in Miami all over the place. You know, and it just, there's more to it than just that. You can be what you want to be no matter where you live. But it's putting those basics back together. I think it's the way you service people.
Agree.
The follow-ups, you talk too about like referrals. I call that like our ambassadors too. I always mention that to clients. Like we always want to get reviews when we can. One way or the other, they're going to help us. You know, if it's, hey, 5-star, that's great. We're, you know, happy to hear that. And I really appreciate the feedback from people.
Right.
But when you get that 1-star, that 1.5, and it gives you an opportunity, and hopefully the people who put that are open to having conversation and things like that to maybe work it out. Right. A lot of people aren't. It's just what happens. You know, any negative reviews are hard to get rid of.
We were always told it's a good thing to have a couple of negative reviews.
Yeah.
Because it adds the legitimacy to all the other, like I have maybe 500 reviews. I got 498 that are good. People start to think that they're not legitimate, right? Even if they don't know what I know, what I told you about Zillow. So a couple of bad reviews are actually a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I think it opens your eyes. Yeah. You know, when you get all the pats on the head all the time, it's wonderful, but I'm not a star on the forehead person. I've never needed that. I don't need credit for whatever. I just want to do it, get it done, and let's move on to the next piece.
I'll tell you, I think one of the things that a lot of people that get successful, like maybe yourself and myself, and I've seen this with on TV with athletes and celebrities, is you don't work the same when you're on top as you did when you're on the bottom. That's a fact. So my business took off. I got to the top. It's never the best, but always great. And I would get a lot of business from referrals, people just seeing me online or whatever. Then COVID came and everybody kind of took off. Everybody got their real estate license and everybody was making $100,000 minimum. And then now they're gone now. And I've been humbled because a lot of my business had been taken. Like the status quo pre-COVID was the best for me. And then everybody else kind of came in and formed these mega teams and started absorbing business that I feel maybe I would have gotten. So now I have my parents, I talk to my parents about this daily. The past probably 2, maybe 3 years, I've been hitting the reset button and rebooting, where I would just wake up in the morning and I would have an email, hey, can you list my house? Hey, are you available to take on another buyer? Those are all kind of gone. So now I'm actually, whenever we're done here, I'm going to head down to the office. I'm going to print out letters. I'm going to fold them. I'm going to stick them in an envelope, lick the envelope, and mail them out to my past clients trying to get business. So I have been reset. I have to go back to the foundation. And no doubt my customer satisfaction, when I first started, before we started filming, I said, I was so desperate. I would run out and grab the newspaper out of my potential client's mailbox and deliver it to their front door, just the sidewalk length, just to get their business. But as I got to the top, all that kind of fades, and you kind of get an air of, you want to work with me? Okay, I guess you're good enough. And then that's all taken away, and it resets you, it re-humbles you. And that's kind of the stage I'm in now.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So listen, as we kind of wrap up the podcast, what are some Brian goals forward? What do you see for yourself and maybe this industry?
So the industry itself is going to be steady for quite some time to come. The interest rates are not going to fluctuate much. They're talking about them going down by the end of the year a little bit, but we see them going down a tenth here, a tenth there. So people have just got to get in line and accept. And I think with the buyers you see buying, maybe like yourself, are realizing that this is what it's going to be. Like I said, every day we get away from that unicorn market, it's better for the buyers because they can understand that we're never going to see that again. Now, there are options. You could buy down your rate before you can go to the bank. I'm just going to throw out a number and say, I'll give you $10,000 to take it from 6.5% and take it down to 6%. And if you think about that, that's a huge savings for the buyer over 30 years. That interest rate has lowered. Then it also helps the bank out because they're going to make money anyway, but they'll take your 10 grand and stick it in their bank account as profit, right? And then you can always refinance your rate.
Yeah.
They're going to go down. And when they do, you're going to have banks mailing you stuff. You specifically are going to have banks competing with your mortgage lender saying, hey, interest rates are 5%. We'll give you 4.75. You know the reason why they'll do that?
Because they like me.
No, because you're cute.
Well,
because
I get that a lot.
Because they have none of your business. Yeah. So they will take a little bit of hit on the interest rate to have some of your business. Yeah. So just everybody, buyers,
small
get out there.
Small percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing.
I call it the $2 and none rule, right? If I'm walking along the sidewalk, I see no dollars, I'm upset. If some $2 comes in front of me, I'm going to pick it up and take it. Yeah.
One more thing I got to ask you. So as we kind of conclude here, we have, a lot of different viewers, people checking everything out, and we always like to leave them with some little bit of advice. If you had to give one word to an entrepreneur, what word would you throw out there for them?
It would have to be 2 words, and it would be don't quit.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time, and it's cliche. But many times roadblocks are going to be thrown in front of you, and those are tests to see if you're going to make it through. A lot of people deviate away from that roadblock. Some bust through.
I agree with you. That this don't quit side of it, think about where we talked earlier, before you even got into this career, you didn't quit, man. You pushed again. You pushed a little bit harder. You learned more. And then the other thing that you mentioned before was the confidence side. Yep. I think confidence is a really important piece.
I think the more doors that you bust through that are closed will end up, more doors will be opening for you. Once somebody sees you can go through that barrier, they'll be more apt to hire you.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Another Boss Juice podcast in the books. Brian, appreciate you coming on with us. Where can they find you real quick?
Brian, just Google Brian Sells Pittsburgh, Instagram, Brian.sells Pittsburgh, LinkedIn, Brian Sells Pittsburgh, YouTube, Brian Sells Pittsburgh, Facebook, Brian Sells Pittsburgh, 412-901-7522. We'll put it up right here.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you taking a minute.
Pleasure.